It's crazy too, though, that anyone can invest in a startup essentially. And, you know, granted, things are different in other countries, but here in the US, where they like to lock us down as much as possible with financial choices when it comes to investing, because obviously we have a lot more freedom when it comes to like lending and just monetary transactions. But yeah, like you don't have to be an accredited investor to invest in a crypto startup. And, you know, I personally have felt that pain where there's been things years ago I wanted to invest in and I couldn't because I wasn't an accredited investor. And the worst is when you see one of those things like turn out to be like a very profitable company and you could have been like an angel investor. Son of and it's just like, thank you, government, for protecting me from myself, because clearly I don't know what the freak I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, a big example for me that's relatively recent is Starlink. There's a lot of people who are able to invest in
Mm,
SpaceX and Starlink, um, in the private markets, but that isn't something that's available to people like, us. And imagine if they had a crypto asset where you could buy into the early stages of Starlink, like before they even deployed any Starlink satellites, and they did like crowdfunding round where people could buy a piece of that, people like us, rather than all these VCs just getting richer than they already are. you know it's a pretty insane world that the best, and that's what this basically, Tony Robbins' entire book is basically about, how there's all these private investment vehicles that way outperform the rest of the market. And he kind of unveils how all these people are just kind of printing money behind the scenes by investing in these things, whether it's sports
yep.
teams or startups, um, or even investing in like GPs who then go out and invest in startups. There's a whole world of investing that the retail market doesn't even know about and doesn't have any access to. And I think one of the beauties of crypto is that it opens us up to, now you can invest in a startup. Like, for me, I invested in Thorchain before they even had a real product. So, buying that under 40 cents and then just believing that the team was going to deliver on this grand vision was akin to buying into some kind of startup. And then obviously, the token ended up going like 50x from there in the last bull run. And it turned out to be one of the best investments I ever made. But without crypto, without, the rails that have been built, investing in a startup like that would have been locked down to only the super rich. So it's a new world, and I'm very happy to be building in this space. But that being said, it's a very treacherous place to build in. I said it's the highs and the lows are really just exponential in this.
So, you know, speaking of all that, I think it actually kind of segues into what a lot of people are expecting to be like the new hot sector of the crypto space, and that's RWAs. You know, anything that's focused on tokenizing real world assets. And I've recently kind of like thrown small investments at a couple of, you know, tokens related to that, you know, just to have some skin in the game in case that sector does take off. And the irony of that is, and funny part is one of the coins, the ticker is SMT, and it makes me think of, wow, that was the whole reason I was all about, well, Steam back in the day. Now Hive was, you know, this idea of smart media tokens and how you could tokenize everything. And I'm like, holy shit. I was like, this is going to be the blockchain of blockchains. And obviously nothing, you know, came to be with that. And at the same time, probably before its time, because, you know, we're several bull bear cycles in crypto, and now you're starting to get this talk of RWAs, and you know BlackRock obviously has put money into that space, and you know has kind of inked deals with a couple of operators. So that's going to be super interesting, and you know I think that segues and delves further into you know that opportunity for people where now not only can you invest in startups, but now you can get access to real world assets through, you know, tokens that people in the past would not have. So that's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait for that. I mean, we're probably a decade out before we see like, you know, mass tokenization of real world assets, but I think that's going to create a lot of liquidity and ease of use and access for a lot of people that don't have it now. And that should be an interesting, you know, life cycle in terms of the beginning of it and the adoption of it. And maybe it'll become, maybe nothing will come of it, but I feel like that could essentially be the next like crazy thing in crypto.
Well, it's one of the biggest narratives right now is exactly that, how real world assets are going to be the fuel of this bull market. Of course, people are also saying that the whole narrative about Nvidia and artificial intelligence is going to explode. But personally, and probably 60s of my portfolio is made of real world asset tokens or projects that of course are just the first ones of their class. Some of them have been around for a few years already. It's not going to be that easy for people to think, oh, this can explode, because we are usually used to saying, hey, if it's not a new project, then it's not going to explode. But all of the real world assets, like, I don't want to mention names, but there are probably around more than 10 that already have a real life use case, that have regulations, that have a community, that are just ready to explode in this cycle. So, yep, I'm pretty bullish on RWA in general.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
yeah. Well, BlackRock has been putting out for the last couple of years an annual report about the crypto space, and basically one of the core ideas that they talk about is real world assets and tokenization of everything, which is obviously, having their weight behind that is a big deal. Definitely going to be a driving narrative going forward. I think it's only going to get more and more, relevant. Just the ease of transacting, the ease of, access that it brings. I think if you look at society for the last 20, 30 years, it's really been just a growth of access. So, the average person got access to better transportation, better information, better healthcare, better everything. Essentially, it's just a democratization of access, and real world assets, kind of push that to the next level in terms of finance.